Okay, so today we are doing book jackets. In fact, the whole of this month we'll be doing book related art. So I'll just give you a little bit of an idea since Malika is new. Usually, the theme is only so that we can find something interesting to do. The uh, the the techniques of art pretty much remain the same. So you will do a little bit of drawing and sketching, then a little bit of painting, coloring, composition, but the purpose for all of that will change every month. And that is what will keep it interesting. Plus, now, like today's session, you will learn how to make book jackets. Potentially, you can make jackets for all your books with this. So that way, you always have some project that you can do which will require you to practice your art. And this is slightly different from doing art where you make a painting and you put it up on a wall. And even if you do a painting for like one painting a week, it's very difficult to find 52 places to put up stuff in your house or in somebody else's house. And sooner or later, you stop doing art. So you need practical projects. And then once in a while, if you feel you want to make a painting, you will have the skills to do that at the right time. We start off with doing a few sketches. I'll give you an idea of how to compose, how to do little bits of all the elements that are required, and then we will put that all together and make the craft. So for the book jacket, we will use, of course, a book, then some loose sheets. Usually for a book jacket, for a book that is about A4, that fits in an A4 width-wise, we will need two A4 size sheets. If you don't have loose sheets, you can just tear a couple from your book. That should work fine. Then we'll need glue and scissors. So first of all, because we want to get this the glue to dry, I'll show you how to make the jacket itself. Okay, so just have a look first, and then I'll give you time to make this so there's no confusion. Don't do it when I'm doing it, because then I will soon enough say, before you do this, do something else. And I too goof up very often. So you let me finish all the goof ups, and then you know how to not do something.
Aditi,
Yeah,
are we using watercolors today?
we can, but not necessarily. Do you not have them?
No. I just want to check which one are we using? Are we using watercolors or like
Watercolors
pen?
usually, because they're the quickest. We can just do a fatafat painting and be done with it.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what we do. Now, we have to make a cover that goes from front to back and also folds inside. So this is like how we used to do covering of our books in school, if you've done that. But because, like, if I were to take this single sheet of A4 and bring it around, it just about fits the cover, right? This won't be enough. So we need to add an extra sheet of paper, and I try to be as frugal as possible so I don't do this whole massive overlap of paper. We need about an inch or so. So what you can do is, if you've torn a sheet, take the torn edge and place it on the inside, and we will paste this up. Once this dries, then we can fold it from one edge and cut up excess from the other side. So this glue needs to dry in time. So with just about a 1 centimeter to 1 inch overlap, we create this large paper. Okay, you want to do that? I'll wait for you. नहीं, wire है. Okay, done. Okay, are we done? Alright, so while this dries, we'll just do a few sketches in our book so we know what is expected of us when we make a book jacket. Okay, so typically when we design a book cover, this is like graphic design 101. First thing is to identify all the elements on the cover. So you have obviously the title of the book, the author, then there will be some kind of byline or tagline, and you'll have this extra stuff which the publisher will have put only to make the sale a little more compelling. But when you are thinking of making a book jacket for your library, you are in control creatively. So you need to look at the whole book front and back and decide what you want to do in place of all this. So this is like real estate. It's your home, you decide how you want to decorate it. Just because people have a living room as soon as they enter the house doesn't mean that you can't put a kitchen right there. Okay, so this is supposed to go into your library. So we have the front, we have the spine, and we have the back. So what I recommend usually is to make it your own and definitely different from this. Is you can keeping the book title the same actually makes sense because you need to identify which book to pick up. You can't mess with the name of the author, but you can give your own tagline. So that is where the fun, creative bit comes. Like for example, if it's a Harry Potter book or something, if you don't have to stick to the title. No, not the title. The tagline, as may be in the book, you could, or if, even if there isn't one, you can make up your own. And in the back, you can fill this up with text that is relevant to you. So you can write your own. Um, what is that
Blurb.
called?
Blurb. It's called a
Review.
blurb.
Yeah, something. Yeah, or you can ask your family or friends to write blurbs about that and make that like my mom said this, dad said this, and this is why the book needs to be picked up. The reason is because chances of anyone picking a book up from your home will be somebody who you would know, a family friend, a child, or whatever. So for them, it's fun that when they look at the back of the book, this is what my grandma said, this is what my mom thinks of the book, and that is why they should pick it up also. Right? So, this is the text. Now we have to think about how to make the cover interesting. That's where the art creative part comes, and how to do the text creatively. So we just make all this we put we like make a mind map of all of this, and then we'll start making illustrations that are relevant. May I know what books you have chosen so I can give you some ideas as well?
I haven't chosen any book. I'm like looking for some books. I always have drawing books around me.
Oh, okay, okay. One
I
minute.
I'll check.
I chose something called The Storm Veil in Winter.
Uh-huh.
This is a children's book, my son's.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So this one is the story of this guy who finds a whale by the shore,
Uh-huh.
and he makes friends with the whale, and
Okay.
then leaves the whale to go into the sea. Yeah. So and so that's the first book. The second book is where he finds the whale back, and yeah, so yeah, and the whale basically rescues the boy.
Of course. How cute.
Yeah.
That's a lovely book. So
Yeah.
you already
This is
have
my favorite author, actually.
you already have the illustration. So now, I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have some relevant stuff to pick up. Wonderful.
Uh-huh.
What is mine? The future of packaging. Good Lord. But I'll show you.
anything. That is like what I've ever done with
I
this.
know. So anyway, I'll show you how to work with any book possible. So regardless of what the topic of your book might be, you can choose whatever cover you want for this. Like the future of packaging is only the title. I could draw like birds on this. It doesn't matter. The human brain works in such a way that it tries to make connections no matter what, and sometimes the less connection there is, it can be even more enticing. And when you look at the book, your brain would say, okay, why, how am I going to tie this? Why have they put a bird on something that says future of packaging? Is this something I'm missing? I must read this book. So literally design can work in many ways. Now in this case, the first thing to do is just to make a map of all the text. Not just the text, but all the requirements. So you can start off with the title. So write the title of the book you have. This you can just write in normal text. Author, and I'm not writing any of this. Forward by 15 industry leaders, none of that. The spine also has the same stuff. Now, sometimes in a book, you will have, if you've read it especially, you will have something that makes sense in the book itself. So, in this case, I don't even need to do that because it's all about packaging. And we can think of any number of elements that you can package. So, for packaging, what are the ideas? Now, I just want you to see the process that I go through, and you can find different ways of addressing this. So, what does packaging mean to me? I would say maybe like a Tetra Pak package. Packaging could also be something like uh, I would in fact put a banana peel as packaging. That's excellent packaging material. It's biodegradable, it's functional, so it can be manufactured, it can be natural, all of this. So what I want you to do is just make a quick sketch of what you think you would want to put as a central element of your design. So Archana, if you want, you could make the same cover as me and then go buy a book.
Yeah, that is so nice. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Do you want to take a couple of minutes to make that drawing? I'll just wait for you. I just want to see how you're drawing it, and then I can help you make that drawing that is relevant to your book also.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to move away from this and show you some of the other stuff that we've done. So here are two books on which I just use white pen to create the central element of the stories. This is just regular black paper. As you can see, the book has become very old, but the cover will be. This is also a very old book. Now, the moment I put covers on this, the book will last longer. And this is the spine, and I still have to write the back. Then there's this book. So this is about how, I guess, just Indians work. And I started reading, I just went through the book, and at some place they've given a rickshaw analogy. The auto rickshaw being the one which does the work, but it's not really glamorous, it's not very expensive. So I thought this would be the perfect picture for the cover. And then we made text, wrote the name of the author, and then I used another element from India, the bull, which is ubiquitous. And here's something interesting also. I just made some random lines and gave it, what is this called? US,
Barcode.
Yeah, barcode. ISBN code.
Oh, the eyes.
So it makes it look even more formal. But what we'll do today now, other than now Malika, I don't know how you'll do this, is make a book cover somewhat like this. So here it's a dictionary. I can't put words. I mean, look at how they have made their cover. But we can use something just as simple as this, which is not really relevant to what your book is, but it can give you the information you need. So if I keep all these books sideways, you get to see what your library looks like. Okay, now in Malika's case, you can make the whale and a lot of water. So I'll try and show you what you can do, and for all of us, we'll do something that is a little more generic. That way, you don't have to worry about getting Dilbert's face right.
But I want his face on this, like on the spine.
We can do that. Okay, so I think our covers will have dried now. So what you can do is leave about 1.5 or 2 inches of space on the left and fold the paper inward. So usually 1.5 inches is enough. You don't need more than that. And 1.5 inches is about 2 phalanges of your finger. All this so that we can avoid wastage. Then place your book in just like regular covering. Go over.
Okay, this black.
That will come back, yeah. And now just pinch the edges over here so you know where the spine will come. And then pinch the edge over here so you know where the edge will come. So that when you open it up, you get these markers. And it's easier to fold without the book. So you get absolutely parallel lines. You fold from this side. And then again, you will fold the same about 1.5 inches extra. So you get that extra flap and you cut this part off. This part is going to go inside the book. So if you don't have a cutter, use a scissor. If you don't have a scissor, just tear it up. That's fine too. Now you can keep your book in and check. You should have this cover ready. Now my book is just a little bit longer, so it's going to show this Sunday is longer than Monday thing happening. Perfect. And you can, yeah, you can reserve this, you can make bookmarks. That's also a lovely idea. So with this, in this itself, you can use it. Right, so now we have a blank cover. And Malika, for you, you can easily just draw a whale and write the text and your book will be done. But you could also do something like this. Since this is about seafaring, you could create a nice easy texture with waves. So just draw wobbly lines, and somewhere over here you could in fact just draw the whale or just even the flipper and continue to make these lines. Should we all just make Malika's design? That might be easy for us.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I think that is good.
Sorry, Archana, what did he say?
Yeah, we should be able to do that.
Yeah. And her design is so specific. So remember, we have to write the text, whatever your book title is, we have to write that. And the name of the author. So, we are going to write the text in the middle of these lines. I just want you to see this. Mine will be written here. So this is, this is the spine. This is the fold. The title will come on the right side. Huh? So I will write the future of packaging. So whatever lines I get, within that I can fit the design. And somewhere over here I can write the name of the author, or I can write the name of the author also like this. Okay, that's going to be our design.
So the waves are coming on the folds also, right?
Yeah. We'll just make waves throughout. So hold your pencil sideways. And I might hazard saying try drawing a straight line, because then you'll get a wobbly line. Don't make them too close. Make them reasonably far. They can overlap also if you like that. And obviously they are not going to be identical. Make maybe 3 bumps, no more than that, as you go higher. So one rule of thumb is that when you start working on design, try not to make the first part of the design too complicated. If there are a lot of elements, as you start filling stuff in, the complications will automatically come in. So if you make these too close together, then everything else will start becoming too cluttered. Now for the title, here's how we should write letters on lines which are not straight. Suppose this is the section that I want to write on. You can practice this in the book. Wherever you write the letters, okay, there's two things I'll show you. One is in the wave, you can write your letters anyhow because obviously things are going to bob about in water, and making your letters not aligned might be fun. So keeping them at different um, angles might work better. So this is one. Wait, when you're writing this, try to write a little
Further away.
no differently than your handwriting. So make the letters bigger and um, make the letters slightly different also. Like if you're writing, and normally if you write an F like this, which is how you see it over here, in this case focus on drawing the letter. So make the vertical straight, make these lines more deliberately.
Okay.
The second technique is, if you want to do it this way, when you are writing letters on a curve, each letter must stand perpendicular at that point on the curve. So if I were to draw a line on this curve going straight up from that point, you'll notice that where the line dips down, all these perpendiculars converge, and where the line goes round, all the perpendiculars will expand like this. So you have this perpendicular, this. So this is the more organized way of placing letters on a curved line. So my F would be like this. Considering the fact that we are drawing this by hand, it's not going to be 100% accurate, but can you see the difference in how the two letters look? Here it is fairly random, here it is very organized and very scientific. I'm going to go for this one today, since it's class 1 and it's relevant to keep it all bobbing about. So on the book, remember this side is going to be the front. This is a classic mistake that everyone makes when they're doing a book jacket. You make the front over here, and then when you fold it, your front has come to the back of the book. It's very bizarre. So this is our spine, this is the front, and we have only so much space. So look at the number of lines we have and look for a space for where the biggest word should come, and then distribute everything accordingly. So I can write the future of and write packaging here or here, either is fine. So first I'll write future. I'm going to write the letters like this. Sorry, this. So this is how the letters can come. First write the letters very small, very light. Don't worry about the size of your letters being uniform or anything in this. It's all very illustrative. Draw much lighter then.
Right, lighter, no?
Yeah. But it's okay, let it be. I'll show you how to lighten it afterwards. Okay, do you have a micron pen, Malika? A black?
Yes, I do. I do, I do.
You do, right? Okay, so let's
Yeah.
use the micron pen to give these an outline.
So the size, what size do
You can use the number 5.
and what do I do with this, you said?
I'm showing you. Okay, now we just have to go around these letters with the black pen so that we get a double line. Like this.
Okay. So D will be just around it, right?
Correct, yeah.
And very close.
No, no, give it enough room. Okay, do it slowly. Don't clutch the pen so much.
Okay.
And if you are nervous about how your line is going to come, then just exhale.
Okay.
Breathe
I remember you saying
out.
that.
Yes, just breathe out. Remember, these letters are not meant to look absolutely perfect anyway. We want to enjoy the handmade nature of this cover. If we had wanted a printed cover, we would have just printed the cover and put the jacket on.
For a D, do you do a second inside?
Inside, yeah, inside that.
My hand
Rana,
is
do it.
shaking a lot.
I know.
I
So
don't know
just,
why.
I'll tell you, do it slowly and just actively exhale when you're doing it. So when you touch the line, when you touch the paper, exhale and make a short line.
Okay.
And let the pen linger on the paper. There's no rush to pick it up.
Okay.
So go slowly. Yeah. The slower you go, the easier it'll be. And even if your line is shaking, um, in your case, that might be, oh, that might be an effect of the line. For a computer, it's so complicated making a shivering line. You might as well enjoy your shivering line.
I know. Yes.
So this lettering comes very easy in time the more you do it. So that I haven't written this one letter on top. The eventually you won't even need that light pencil letter before.
I'm already enjoying the process and the outcome. I mean,
Oh,
it's not
nice.
great. It's just the way, like it's just the regular
One
letters I
will
would write with pencil
get
pen.
started. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
thank you.
It's looking so cute already.
Very good thing I've used a special pen
Yes.
with the effect that I'm getting.
You know, but a shivering line could be an indication of so many things now, thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't, we very rarely write anymore, right?
Yeah.
And everything is working very fast, and we're typing out stuff and immediately sending, immediately receiving. There's no sense of time or relaxation. So it's as if we don't know how to do this.
Anymore.
Yeah, in slow motion. What you had taken like 3 minutes to write, you probably would have typed in a second.
Yeah.
And also with that autocorrect, the moment you write the first two letters, it supplies everything else. So this could be just a
No, eat the mission order by the Drexel Institute.
I have it all over the drawing. That's very true. Maybe a fork spoon.
so the idea that something like this is going to take this much time is what you need to slowly just tell yourself, or the body will learn. I think
It's like
time.
doing yoga.
It is, yeah, it is yoga, I'm telling you. And the name of the author can be written with just simple letters. Thank you. Right, much like it. Yeah, barely touch.
In the middle, or can I write on the one side? Or
Sorry?
should I write the author's name in the middle, or can I write on like one
You can
side?
write in the middle, you can write bottom, on the top, anywhere is fine.
Mm.
Just write it slightly smaller and a little less significant than the title, that's all. But you know, having said that, sometimes when there are authors like a Robert Ludlum or a Michael Crichton, who you would buy the book for the author, the name of the author is much bigger, and the name of the or the title of the book is just at 50% of that. Right, so we are going to keep the coloring very simple. Now that we know that there are all these waves, and Malika, in your case, you have the whale. The whale will be a darker color, and the rest will all be in different shades of blue. So in my kit, I have 3 different blues. I'll just show you. So there's these 3, but there are ways in which you can paint, and we'll do this one exercise or maybe 2 exercises in this process. One is just making a wash. So take a whole lot of any one color with a lot of water. I want to show you how to create washes. Now, if you're working with cakes, this is another thing that you can do or you will learn, is to never wash until you need to wash the palette. Because in the process of painting, there are so many shades that get made, and unless you want something very specific like today, you can always use all the colors that are created in the palette for any kind of painting, literally. So I could paint a portrait with these colors and you wouldn't be able to tell. So in time, colors start becoming insignificant in their identity, but significant in their contribution to other colors to create the shade that you need at that time. Okay. Right, so I'm going to use a big fat brush like this. This is a number 10, but you can use a 12 or even larger flat brush. I'll give you another brush here. And if you've got tube colors, then this is the time to use tube colors. But you basically make a huge puddle of paint, which is rather watery. Let me move the color. So this is going to be what's called wash consistency, which means that your paint should run on the palette very easily. Even if it has a lot of pigment, you can do that. Lena, eat na.
Ah, sorry.
While you're watching, you can eat. So when we are making washes, we are tinting the entire paper in one particular color. And for something as large as this, ideally, I would recommend using um, a tube of color, because then you can squirt out a whole lot in one shot. But since I did not give you that as a material for this class, I'm not going to use it myself. But I am going to keep replenishing this pool with more and more paint, and I'm using cerulean blue right now. So this is a light bright shade of blue, and I just want you to observe this technique of painting. A wash is like 50% of any watercolor painting that you will ever do, whether it's landscapes, portraits, even something like this. So essentially, a wash is putting a liquid, very runny color along the paper by holding the paper at an angle and using gravity to spread the paper across the surface. So I load the brush and then I run it along the surface in a very regular, organized manner, and I make sure there's enough paint in my brush and on the paper such that the bottom edge of that application always remains wet. So long as this is wet, I could literally go out, get some vegetables and come back and restart and nothing will happen. It will not become patchy. So I'm holding the paper at an angle, not too steep, otherwise then all of it will just start running. So about 45 degrees, 30 to 45 degrees. And I keep loading the brush. Now loading the brush also should be done like you would fill fuel in your car. You don't wait for the fuel to finish before you go to the gas station. So you apply, and as you see that the bottom is not filling up, you go and load your brush and you apply again. This color is typically very light. It only stains the paper. So you don't have to use too much pigment. And you can press the brush a little bit so that it spreads across the surface. Don't make too many brush strokes and definitely never go back. So if you've left a white patch, let that be. Keep moving forward. So this is like life philosophy. Don't look at what is left behind. Just move forward. There's always something that you're going to do on top of this layer. So we're going to come back and cover up everything else. It won't make any difference. Okay, so do you see consistently I'm just keeping this edge wet. Now I'm running out of paint. So I need to add more paint. And like I said, so long as the bottom edge is wet, I can do any time pass and come back to it, it won't matter. When you mix a second batch of paint, there are chances that the color might change slightly because the amount of pigment you have used might reduce or increase. Whatever happens, never mind, just continue. Don't try to match it also. We can use that to our advantage. And do this slowly. There's absolutely no rush. This is a particularly long wash. Oh my god. It's never this long. Going on and on and on. This is like a Hindi movie. So if you have a flat brush, this will be even more efficient. I think I do have a flat brush. Yeah, but this one, yeah, let me just demo this and show you. Now the neighboring green has also decided to join the party, so change even further.
Should we start?
You can begin, yeah. And you can use the round brush now. Yeah. A flat brush will give you a much even application for sure. That's what it's built for, one might say. But you can get the same with the round brush as well. I rarely use a flat brush
And why is that? Why do you rarely use it?
because I don't do such large scale paintings, no? So I don't really need to. I use it mostly for lettering. So when you come to the end also, there might be some patches, leave them because everything will just vanish uh, within the wet paint. It will all settle. So every time after 2-3 times of painting, take your brush in water, add more color, put it in your puddle, and then reload and then wipe. So you keep mixing the color back into the puddle you use. Yeah, that's good. Going well. So the titling bit, you
I
can,
have a question.
yeah.
So so I have the water and the veil. So do I cover the veil with this light blue or do I leave the place there?
No, just cover it up because you're working with watercolor. But after
Okay.
you apply the watercolor, it will dry up and become a little lighter.
Okay.
And
Okay. So,
we would want your veil to be a little more prominent. So then you will layer on some other colors on top of it so that it starts looking much brighter and more concentrated.
okay.
So
And
as far as washes are concerned, usually they are translucent washes that go over everything.
okay, got it. Yeah, and so again, I mean, I'm not a pro with watercolors at all. So when it dries, does the texture of paper, like A4 paper, change? I mean, does it get mushy or what? How does it look?
So are you saying about the warping of paper?
Yeah. Not warping really. Just does the paper quality get uh, bad when it dries up?
No. See,
Since this is not.
watercolor, the way I speak about watercolor and paper is that they have the same grandmother.
Okay.
Paper is also made using water, and watercolor is also made using water, and both of them have a similar lineage. So when paper is hydrated, the fiber becomes receptive, and
Uh-huh.
it collects the all the pigment from watercolor.
Okay.
Unlike say pastels or acrylics or anything, the fiber does not interact so much with the medium. It is
Okay.
just a surface onto which this medium comes and sticks. So
Okay.
when you work with watercolor, that fiber is going to dislodge a little bit. That is its job. And then it goes back, shrinks back down. May not be in the same place. But if you go over one area with a wet brush, when that area is wet, you do this multiple times, then there's a danger of pulling the fiber out.
Okay.
So when you're painting with watercolor, look at one smooth, almost like a ballerina-like movement. You move
Okay.
forward and then you move backward. It has to be very graceful and in rhythm, so that one layer of pigments goes and settles. By the time another layer of pigment comes and settles. So before the pigment settles, while the water is wet, if we do this, which is like how we would normally color with color pencils or crayon, then it's like you're saying to the pigment, don't sit, move here. No, don't move there, sit here. And you can imagine the chaos that it creates, and it also
Yeah.
starts disrupting the surface of the paper. Then you start
Okay.
seeing these tiny granules of paper through your paint. So just look at your action. If it is a smooth flowing action, you should be fine. And since we are making just a wash, don't make too much. Don't do. Just 1 second. I'm just helping Rena reload. Yeah. So don't overwork the paper. We have enough opportunity to come back, change the color, maybe may add more layers and all, so don't worry about that. So this way now our whole book cover has got a very nice look to it. It does not look white. White paper can look very boring also sometimes. And we can now focus on just the cover to save time. Okay, so while your layers are drying, I'm just going to go ahead and show you what my plan is for the cover bit. And you don't have to do it with me. Let me show it to you, and then you can do it after your covers have dried up. So now we focus only on the front. We don't have to paint any of the back if we choose not to. And I can use the same brush, or I can use a slightly smaller brush, and maybe use a different blue this time. So I will use a cobalt blue and add to the existing color to change the hue just a little bit, but still maintain a base note that is common. And this time now I'm going to paint the two significant words. So here again, because the area is pretty large, I will use the same technique. Hold the paper a little upright. You can paint it sideways also. And this part again, you have to keep moving forward, staining the paper. And painting as you One second, my online class is still on. Sit. Yeah.
So is this as watery as the previous one?
It's pretty much the same, just more pigment.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want this?
No, I was just going to say, keep your, and this will work for Malika also. Malika, just one piece of instruction. Your brushes, if you are in the habit of keeping it in water like that, avoid that and keep it flat always, because your brush tip is very sensitive and it has memory. So when you put it in water and it stays like this, it starts turning on its side and can get damaged.
Oh,
So yeah, even I didn't know that till some years ago. So I usually keep a rag, or unless you have a brush rest, and keep all your brushes flat. And also when you're storing them, store them upright in something like this so they dry fully and retain their shape. You can also store them upside down, but then that whole contraption is just too much, it's too Japanese. So even something like that is fine. And the less you keep in water, the better it is. Or even this part can start getting damaged. We are never taught these things when we learn art, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's the case. So now all I'll do is I will darken these. They don't have to be the same color. You can change the color of some others as well. Basically what we are doing now is called, well, not layering, it's called glazing. So glazing in watercolor is a technique where you take one light tone over another light tone over another light tone, and depending upon how you place it, you start creating depth. So in this case, it's pretty flat. So we are just practicing seeing two different colors together, and the outcome will be obviously the added effect of the two colors together. So in the case of the lower color, if I choose to use say an emerald color, it presents itself as a nice bright green color on my kit, but because of the blue undertone, it will become a nice blue-green color. So this is another important bit in watercolor that you don't often get in other mediums, because most other mediums function on opacity, not transparency. And watercolor is one of the only mediums that uh, works on translucency, building up volume and texture, but you can't change that and make the color opaque. So over time you will start seeing how these colors interact with each other and be able to create depth, texture, and also color, of course, the right shade, by just layering these colors cleverly. So if this turns out a little patchy, don't worry about it. It's supposed to be the ocean anyway. So this will start looking like waves if you've got some lines this way and that.
I need to loosen up a lot. I've
Yeah.
just been so, I can feel the stiffness.
Yeah, it's. You should actually keep a journal about this. So behind every artwork, you should write, okay, felt what? Stiffness,
Yeah.
hand was shaking, and just
Good
check
idea.
this
After
every
a few-
month or
I think
every
it's a
2
great
months.
idea.
Because I have seen this happen with many people. Uh, First, there's something like the trepidation of just drawing without erasing. Today I haven't insisted on it, but usually I would not allow erasing.
That's why I was not using it if you open the box.
But I don't want to scare anyone on the first day. So now technically our book jacket is done, and we can do more stuff on it, like you can darken up some of the letters. You can, within the space given in the back, you can write all the stuff that we spoke about, and you can also write the letters on top of these lines. Don't worry about that, it will still look fine with the same pen, because you need to be able to see this. Now when you're writing this, just remember to check on the book the orientation of the letters. You don't have to remember these things, because unless you want to become a book designer, this is not part of your job. Just look at how the publisher has printed this, and you can then write much of the stuff the same way. And let's test it out, how this is looking. So one book will be well done.
Nice.
Not bad.
Yeah. Great idea.
So this is very basic. I did not want to do too much today because it's the first class. But what I would like you to do is at least make just the base for a few books in your library.
I will do that.
So create the cover and keep it ready for a time when you have even half an hour. You know how to do this thing now. In your book, just write down what all you have to write, figure out a style of lettering, and then you can do the exact same thing with a different design format.
Love it.
The book. And I'm sure you must be gifting books to a lot of young people and all. Like I gifted a book called Sophie's World to my daughters when they turned 15.
Okay.
It's a very nice book about philosophy. Just when young people start thinking. And I wish I had thought of a book cover at that time, but I had written some thoughts about why I thought they should read that book, how it would help them become people or thinking people. So your advice can be the blurb in the back.
Oh wow. I love
You know, it's a nice
It's
idea.
a very nice idea.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to pack up now. But would you like to share your book covers on the group so I can have a look? And my next class is waiting already. And also send in your queries if you have any, so I can then work on it, and then next class I can help you out.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you so much.
Okay, chalo. So
Yeah.
good night, and I'll see you next week.
Sure.
Bye.
Bye.